everyone. Hi, good morning. And thank you, Elsa. I like that. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to brilliant, beautiful, slightly wet and drizzly and grey Bradford. My name is Shnaz Gulzar. I'm the Creative Director of Bradford 2025. I am a South Asian woman with shoulder-length, silvery grey hair. People tell me I have a big smile, but I don't always believe them. We're in a rectangular room that is just smaller than a tennis court. It's about 6-metre high ceiling, and the walls are white with a grey ceiling. There are 2 doors either side to enter the space. Toilets are outside when you go out and you turn left. There's tea and coffee stations out in the foyer. And most of all, I'd like to thank all teams that have been involved in pulling this event together. Now, normally, when I say we are Bradford 2025 UK City of Culture, I ask for a cheer, but I didn't have to ask this time, did I? Because you're already our people, aren't you? This year, we have tried to create a programme that is fully representative of this city, this district, as the first city of culture that is city and district. That's about 144 square miles, which isn't that big when you're Yorkshire lass, because, you know, Yorkshire is a very big county. We know this. And it's the greatest in the world. We also know this. This city is incredibly diverse, it's incredibly young, so we've tried to create a programme that is for and with the people of Bradford. But we've also made sure that artists, communities, audiences who have never been here before feel welcomed. Artists can work with the brilliant people of Bradford to create great programme. And those of you that have been here over the year, I hope you can see that we have tried to deliver on that promise that we made when we bid and won in May 2022. We're about 58 days away. And where's Mr. Dan Bates? Can you wave? There he is. Mr. Dan Bates is Executive Director, and I always describe him as my work other half. I did ask permission from his partner. Dan is a white man with a beautiful peppery beard, beautiful glasses, looking very handsome in his very much branded Bradford 2025 jacket. This city and the people of Bradford, you will find in your trip here, are some of the most welcoming, most hospitable. They'll probably invite you into their home for a tea and coffee. I'd say yes, because that's when you get the true spirit of a place. Enjoy your time here, talk to everyone. This isn't London, we will talk back. Enjoy the show that you will see tonight, Elmit. Try and see as much of the programme as you can. I recommend the show that's at Impressions Gallery, just in the city centre. Go to the Turner Prize, get out and enjoy the moors. I'm sorry you missed Wild Uplands, it only closed 2 weeks ago. But take advantage of your time here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Peter Glanville. I'm Creative Director of Farnham Maltings and Caravan. I'm a white, middle-aged man with grey hair, wearing blue-rimmed glasses and a dark jacket. Farnham Maltings are delighted to be collaborating with IETM and Bradford 2025 City of Culture on this event through Caravan, which is our international programme. With Caravan, which is funded by Arts Council England, we support England-based artists and producers to internationalise their practice, creating reciprocal opportunities for connection and exchange. A huge thank you to my team. There's Hannah, Megan and Sophia are here. Give us a wave. Thank you for your support in making this happen, and to everyone involved for making it happen. At a time when we're seeing a worrying rise in nationalism in this country, it's more important than ever that we hold our hands out and welcome the cross-border dialogue that ITM brings. An opportunity for us to build international links together and resist some of the harmful narratives with hope, resilience and solidarity. Thank you to ITM for bridging this conversation so that we can advocate for the new international cooperation that we need and want to see. We look forward to connecting with each other And thank you to those that have made the effort to come here to the UK for this focus. Thank you.
And on that note, good morning, good morning. On behalf of the IETM team and the IETM board, we want to say we are thrilled to be here in Bradford. And it is so lovely to see all of you here in this hall, as well as those that might be following us via the live stream. Welcome to the opening of IETM Focus Bradford 2025. I am Ása Ríkharðsdóttir. I'm the Secretary General of IETM. I am a white woman. I am exactly 175 centimeters long. I have longest brown curly hair pulled into a ponytail, and I am wearing a black long dress and brown jacket. Thank you, Sinas and Pete, for your kind, inspiring words. Thank you, all partners, Bradford 2025 UK City of Culture, and IETM member Caravan Farman Malting, as well as our associated partners and members, Creative Scotland and Arts Info Point UK, a partnership initiated and led by Wales Art International Art Council of Wales, with the support of the Art Council of England, Creative Scotland, and Art Council of Northern Ireland. Much thanks to those that make the running of IETM possible, namely the European Union via the Creative Europe Network Grant Programme, as well as IETM members through your membership fees, but also your unbelievable contribution to our network. A few important points of info. There is a faith and quiet room on this floor to my right, your left. It's a quiet space you can use if you need to take a break. It is not for conducting meetings. There is captioning available at every session, which you can access via a QR code, which is up there in the corner. And you do it via your smartphones. The code will always be on the screen and on pieces of papers around the rooms. And at least one breakout group in each session will have captioning. Look for the signs that says captioning available here and the QR code that's going to be next to it. If anyone needs to leave the room or move around it for accessibility reasons, please feel free to. Please note that we do have participants who might need spoken support while speakers deliver their words. All facilitators and speakers agree to this guideline. I also want to introduce to you Terje Hercules, who is here in the room, over there, also known as T. Point Out T, who will be available today from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. to offer well-being support. If you feel affected by any of the conversations today or need support following sensitive discussions, T will be available to offer a safe, confidential space to listen and, where needed, signpost you to appropriated further support or services. You can find T in the foyer or around the venue until 3 p.m. today. Please note, this is a brand new renovated building, so please do not move chairs or furniture by yourself. Please always ask the facility staff to help you. Please remember to familiarize yourself with the IETM community guidelines, which you can find on the IETM website. And this asks, in particular, for us to keep in mind, speakers and participants to show respect when they speak and listen to one another. Please meet the teams. From IETM, Roisin, Lotte, Margarita. From Farman Malting, Sophia, Megan, and Hannah. And from Bradford 2025, Dan and Anna. please find them for any questions you might have throughout the meeting. Now, why are we here? It is high time IETM comes back to the UK. It's been 6 years since we came to Hull in 2019. The 4 nations of the UK comprise IETM's largest membership group. And let's face it, lots has happened since 2019. The consequences of Brexit have hit your sector hard. And we miss your voices and your bodies in our joint European cross-border creative studios. During the next days, we do not want to dwell on the money, the border control, the atacarnes, which I think is ridiculous, are back, and the rest of the horrific conditions which have been reintroduced since Brexit. We know it is there, and please do bring it up, but we really hope that we can use this meeting to give our UK-based members, as well as participants, together with the rest of us, an opportunity to bring perspectives and ideas and unique contributions to the table of European collaboration dialogues and allow ourselves to shape our joint vision on how this beautiful, diverse European continent should operate and conduct itself and shape, and also in its relationship to the rest of the world. That is why we asked in the title of this meeting, whose Creative Europe, ? And the short answer is, it is ours. And without further ado, I am delighted to welcome to the stage the head of EU's only program dedicated solely to culture and arts, Creative Europe. And I give you Judith Videcoq. The floor is yours.
Sorry, I'm not 175 centimeters high. Only 165. Okay, so good morning. Very happy to be with you today. I hope that you hear me well. I am Judith Videcoq. I am a middle-aged woman with light skin, shoulder-length, wavy brown hair, slowly but surely turning gray. And I have brown eyes, I wear glasses, I have a calm and expressive face. And today I am wearing a blue jacket, the color of Europe. My voice is warm and steady, and I hope that it will help you picture me as I speak. So I don't think that you can guess from my physical description that I'm French, but I'm sure that you can hear it from my accent. I would like to thank the organizers, IETM, Bradford, UK City of Culture, for this possibility to meet and to discuss about promoting cross-border cultural connection across Europe and beyond. And I would like also to thank the audience. I hope to have fruitful discussions today and tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you and learning from your experience. I was asked to give a keynote about whose Creative Europe is, but I would like to start by answering the question, what is Creative Europe? And I mean the program. Maybe if we can go to the first slide, just as an introduction. This is a program of the European Union that has been existing since 2014 in the wake of former culture and media programs which were before separated. I would like also to remind you that the intervention of the European Union in the field of culture started in the 90s based on the new community competence which was given through the Treaty of Maastricht in 1993. The competence of the EU is, however, limited by the principle of subsidiarity. That means that the member states, the authorities, they have the primary responsibility, and the European Union only has what we call a support competence, which means that we act only where there is an EU added value. And you will see it in our program that we only intervene when there is a cross-border partnership, not at the national level. The aim of our program, we have two objectives. First one is to promote cultural and linguistic diversity and also heritage. And the second one is to strengthen the competitiveness of the cultural and creative sectors. Currently, our program, Creative Europe, has what we call three strands. The first strand, which I'm responsible of, culture strands, covers all the sectors, creative and cultural sectors, except audiovisual. The second one, media, I'm sure you've heard of it, supporting a lot of co-production, films co-productions. And the third strand is what we call a cross-sectoral strand. So it means that we finance activities that involve all the sectors. One thing about the budget, we have for the period 21-27, a budget of 2.44 billion. And you see the percentages for each strand. So for culture strand, we have 33. This is something which is mentioned explicitly in the legal base, which means, to give you an idea, that each year we have a budget of around 130 million, which is ridiculous. I mean, very, very small compared to the scope of activities that we are supposed to cover in terms of sectors and also in terms of countries. Maybe go to the next slide. I'm just going to walk you through the different actions, not going into the details, but just to explain to you how do we intervene. The main action that we have is called cooperation projects. So we fund projects for applications from cultural and creative organizations, from all the sectors covered by the culture strand. And we fund projects that involve at least 3 partners from 3 different countries. And we go up to a partnership of 10. We also support the linguistic diversity. How do we do this? We have calls for literary translation, in particular focusing on smaller languages. We finance networks of cultural organizations, such as IETM, for example, but we finance in total 40, covering all sectors that we have in our strand. We also finance platforms for emerging artists. The objective of the program is really to support, in particular, emerging artists. And we also have what we call a mobility scheme, which is called Culture Moves Europe. And this scheme objective is to be able to finance the mobility of artists and cultural professionals, to go on individual mobility and also to go on residencies. And of course, we also have the famous Perform Europe. I know that we are going to discuss it more tomorrow afternoon, which is an action to support inclusive and sustainable touring in the field of performing arts. The main element of our program is really the cross-border partnership. This is really the DNA of our program. And these partnerships, they translate into co-creation of new works, joint development of new practices, increased circulation of content, and also increased mobility of professionals. The cross-border element is very strong in terms of EU added value, as it goes, as I explained before, beyond what is done at the national level. Maybe go to the next slide. I'm going to present a few figures. These figures, they come from the evaluation of our program that has been concluded very recently. So we had the first programming period for the program, which was from 2014 to 2020, and then the second one, 21 to 27. So we are nearly at the end of the second phase. We have financed, as you can see, 1,200 transnational projects during the first phase. We have involved around 5,000 beneficiary organizations that have created 7,500 cultural activities. Under the current program, we have evaluated the period 21-23, and we have already almost a little bit more than 600 international projects supporting, involving over 2,000 organizations. Furthermore, in the 7 years of implementation of Creative Europe 1, we have supported 3,500 translations of literary works. And I think it's quite interesting because I know that we will have also a speaker on languages. So we translate from around 40 source languages into 30 target languages, and specifically focusing on what we call smaller languages, so not English. In terms of mobility, this is really at the core of our strand. We have supported over 22,000 professionals in gaining international experience and gaining also experience in other countries. And we have in total 296,000 mobility days. With the launch of Culture Moves Europe mobility scheme in 22, mobility opportunities have been expanded. Before they were possible under the other actions, for example, cooperation project, but now we have a specific scheme for mobilities. And we have supported around 7,000 artists and cultural professionals and created more than 280 artistic residencies. Culture Moves Europe alone accounted for 165,000 mobility days. Maybe go to the next slides. I would like to walk you through the benefits of these international endeavors. So what has it brought to the European cultural ecosystem? First, I would say a reinforcement of capacity and skills in all sectors and in many areas. For example, use of digital tools, audience development, business skills. It has also helped the artists and culture professionals to internationalize their career, so leading to new professional contacts and opportunities. It has helped the cultural and creative organization to attract new audiences, including beyond national and linguistic borders. And we have a very important example, which is the European Capital of Culture. And we have been covering areas that were not so well covered at national level. For example, connection between culture and social issues, development of greening practices. Also, what is important to mention is that the partnerships that have been created, most of them were sustainable. What does it mean? It means that they have been lasting beyond the project duration. And this is why we can say that our program has helped build a European cultural space and a cultural ecosystem at a European level. Now, moving to the question whose Creative Europe is, maybe next slide, yeah. So just to explain to you that the program is open to various cultural and creative sectors. We cover, for example, and very importantly, performing arts, music and cultural heritage, but also some other sectors which are less represented in the program, for example, architecture, fashion and design. We are open also to a wide range of countries. Of course, the 27 member states of the EU with a relatively balanced and geographical distribution. We do not have predefined envelope by countries because our program is based on the principle of excellence, meaning that the projects, the applications will be selected on the basis of their quality and not based on the origin of the organization presenting the application. We have a very strong presence in some member states, so not surprisingly France, Italy, Germany, Belgium, because they have a strong established cultural and creative sector and also because they serve as regional hubs. But we have made a lot of efforts to reach also smaller countries or countries with smaller capacities. And we can see this for the second period of our program, that we have relatively smaller countries, for example, Serbia or Denmark, that are doing extremely well in participating to our program. We are also open to a number of non-EU countries, and I think this is really the specificity and the richness, the uniqueness of our program. We are open in particular to what we call candidate countries, to EU memberships. So we cover all the Western Balkan countries, also Georgia and Ukraine. We cover the EFTA countries, so Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein, and also the neighborhood policy countries. Currently we have, for example, Armenia and Tunisia participating in our program, and we are very proud to announce that as from next year, we will also have Moldova becoming part of our program. You know much better than me, UK left in 2020 in the wake of Brexit, but I would like to mention very clearly that we are open to third countries, so should UK want to come back in our program, we would highly welcome them back. We are also open to all types of entities of cultural and creative sectors, from NGOs, public institutions, foundations, SMEs. And Creative Europe is a popular program with more than 29,000 applications submitted under the first period and already 6,000 under the second period. This is a little bit the weakness of our program, is that we are too famous and successful compared to the funds that we have. Just to mention that we have over 80% of our beneficiaries that are small organizations, meaning under 50 staff members. And this reflects also the composition of the whole cultural and creative sectors. We have tried to improve access to our program, specifically to smaller entities, by increasing the co-funding rates, because we only co-fund the projects. And we have also introduced some simplification measures, for example, the lump sum. So you can now present a budget which is a lump sum, and you will not have to detail all the cost categories, and they will not be checked one by one, but you will be judged on the results of the working packages. We also have a mechanism which we call in our jargon cascading grants, meaning that this is the example of Perform Europe, that we give to a consortium of organizations some funds, and we give them the responsibility to channel them on the ground and finance projects. So this is a way to increase the accessibility, because we know that it is particularly difficult for small organizations to comply with our quite heavy administrative procedures. Finally, I hope that the program belongs to audiences and ultimately to citizens. The cultural activities funded under Creative Europe 1, they have been accessed online or offline at least 91.5 million times over 2014-2020. Furthermore, it is estimated that the average number of visitors that we have for European Capitals of Culture for each title holder is of around 2 million. Over the years, the program has become a real brand with several flagship initiatives that are recognized widely within the program geographical scope and also beyond. I can mention the European Capital of Culture that we can see with the example of Bradford that has inspired many countries and geographical areas. For example, we have a Mediterranean capital of culture. We also have one of our action, the European Heritage Awards, that is now being replicated in some other countries, for example, Jordan. And more recently, we have Culture Moves Europe Mobility Scheme for artists and culture professionals that I've described earlier. That has brought many innovations, for example, top-ups for overseas territories to finance artists going to these territories or coming from these territories. We have also top-ups for artists with disabilities, family top-ups, and green top-ups. It means that we have additional funding when you travel green. And these innovations have also been a source of inspiration for other programs or projects, meaning that our program also belong to organization not participating or countries not participating to the program as a source of inspiration. I would like now to move to the last slide that I called the way forward. I'm just checking. Yes, we are on the right one. So we have still 2 more years of implementation. Then what will happen? We have made a proposal, the European Commission, in July this year, to have a new program that is going to be the successor program of Creative Europe, and that will cover the period 28-2043. This program, the proposal that has been made by the European Commission, is called Agora EU. Let me just explain a little bit what the idea behind this proposal is. The idea is to bring together cultural and creative sector, audiovisual and media, and also civic engagement. In this program, we will have 3 strands. The first one, because we want to keep continuity with Creative Europe, the first one is going to be called Creative Europe Culture, corresponding to the current culture strand of Creative Europe. I hope that I have not lost you now. Second one is called Media Plus, corresponding to the media strand of the current Creative Europe program. And the third one is called Serve Plus, which corresponds to the current program that we have, Citizens, Equality, Rights and Values. So we will still have a full strand dedicated to culture. In this strand, we will have a lot of continuity. Our objective is continues to be to address market fragmentation along national and linguistic lines, and also help the sector face the dual transition, digital and greening transition, and help also specifically the heritage sector, which is facing many challenges. But we will bring some novelties and improvements. We need to address new challenges that have emerged. For example, pressure on artistic freedom, precarious working conditions of artists and culture professionals, and of course, the disruption of AI. We need to be more flexible in a fast-changing environment, and we need to have a global context to be able to face these new challenges. This is why the program that has been presented, we think that it is future-proof, and it can bring a lot of flexibility to be able to face the emerging challenges. We also need to ensure that the Creative Europe Culture Strand is open to all creative and cultural sectors and open to newcomers, what we call first-time participants. So we are going to continue our simplification measures. Importantly, we will keep the same rules for the participation of third countries. Creative Europe would not be what it is if it was only restricted to the 27 member states. So that you know, the proposal is now being negotiated with the European Parliament and the member states. And this proposal is also connected to the upcoming Culture Compass for Europe. This is also European jargon. European Culture Compass, it is a document in which the Commission is going to define its strategic vision for culture. I have not mentioned one thing which is extremely important, it is the budget. So with this integration of several programs into a new, larger one, we've been able to propose a much more ambitious budget. For our strand, we are nearly doubling the budget, and this will be for us a real opportunity to cover better the sectors, to help better the small organizations, maybe by continuing increasing the co-funding rates, and also developing our activity, taking into account the impact of inflation, which was not possible with the current program because we had a limited budget, and also try to answer to the challenge that we have, the main challenge that we have, which is the oversubscription. That we are analyzing a lot of high-quality projects each year that we are not able to finance. So I would like to conclude by saying that we think Creative Europe belongs to all of us. It is ours, it is yours, it is theirs, the member states, participating countries, and also indirectly non-participating countries. It belongs to people like you who dare to create, collaborate, and to challenge the reality. Its future depends on how we share our stories and how we shape our culture together. Europe's creativity is not owned, it is lived every day by each of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith. This was brilliant. Both for your informative words, your encouraging words, your inclusive words. And I just, as I was listening to you talk about the benefits of Creative Europe according to recipients, reminded me of IETM's membership survey and what our members, our latest big membership survey, what our members said is the value of IETM. It is the same things. And it was really heartwarming to make that comparison. No, my iPad locked. As I hope you all know, IETM has strongly called for a global mindset of all EU programs for culture, in our research, in our policy statements, and more. And Judith's heartfelt words really reassure me that this is also the will of Creative Europe, which is really important for us. And I think it's really important to reiterate also that Creative Europe's doors are open to this United Kingdom as well as anybody else. But to give further food for thought, we have asked 3 professionals to bring their thoughts, provocations, and inspirations on our title question at the beginning of our 2-day conversation. And they will follow one another now in this order. Enir Zion, Welsh Language Enabler from the Art Council of Wales, followed by Ben Evans, Project Director of Europe Beyond Access from the United Kingdom, and finally, Tanja Gavrovic, Culture Advisor and Manager from Serbia, ex-Yugoslavia, who will speak to us remotely. Enir, the floor is yours.
Diolch. Thank you. Bore da. Good morning. My name is Einir Siôn from the Arts Council of Wales, and I'm here to talk to you and give you a provocation about the way we view language and where it should be placed within our creative and cultural sectors and the power of doing that, what that can mean. So as a starting point, I'll give you a little bit of context. So I'm from the Arts Council of Wales. Wales is a small country next door to England with about 3 million population. 20% of those, which equates to under 600,000 people, have said that they speak the Welsh language, Cymraeg, in their day-to-day lives. Woohoo! Yes! More people are learning, more people are able to speak it, but they are the numbers who have said that they do actively speak it. We are one of, as there are many here, one of the about 7,000 living languages in the world, and we do not want to be half of those that disappear by the end of 2023, as is projected. More so, we want to empower other languages not to be one of those languages that will be disappearing. So part of my role has been to look at the language use in our country, who uses it, who doesn't use it. What's the connection between the language sector and the creative and cultural sector? How can we strengthen that connection? Why are they separate in the first place? And while we were looking at all of those questions and reasonings, we brought some experts together to really delve deeply into this question. We realized that language is not, as it is generally seen, just a skill or something that we should number crunch. You know, what is the majority language? What is the useful language? Who has the skill? It isn't divisive. It is actually part of our everyday cultural expression, creative expression. And when we place language in the center of that creativity and that cultural expression, it isn't divisive anymore. It is a connector. It is something that enriches. It is something that we can all celebrate as part of our day-to-day lives. So I'm going to give you some examples of what we've done in Cymru, in Wales, in order to really explore this area of connectivity between Cymraeg, the language, and the people who speak it. We have been realizing that we need to give a context of where we're coming from with regard to 3 areas of connectivity. Where we're coming from in the context of language, art, and culture. So I'll just state where I'm coming from for the purpose of this talk today. So language, we see, as Charles Taylor notes in his book, The Language Animal, is a skill. It is something to communicate, it is something useful, but it is also more than that. It is portrayed in our everyday expression, in gestures, in metaphors. It is creative, and it is therefore a huge part of the family of culture, creativity, and language. Art is for the ordinary. It isn't the high-end art. It is the creativity that people express themselves through in their day-to-day lives. In Wales, for example, we are known as the land of song, so music and singing is prevalent. Yes, poetry also is a really strong art form that's there in our everyday communities that we celebrate, as is literature, as is storytelling, as is visual art, as is theatre, as is dance. They are part, we have a strong culture in these art forms, but they are with the everyday communities and people, not as a high-end art form. Culture is then parcel of all of this, all of these coming together in this enriched way. And when we put them together as one family and really delve into what they are, what they mean as one family, then we can see how they can evolve and develop together. How can they help each other and inform each other in the development of our creative outputs and activities. And I believe strongly that the creative sector have keys here, many different keys. I believe that the creative makers, the creative thinkers, are able to put what is policy into practice. They are able to ask the difficult questions, the challenging questions. They are able to open these questions out to the communities that they work in, and they are able to come up with creative solutions. So I'm going to give you an example of how this has happened in Wales over the past 2-3 years by now. The images that are behind me are examples, by the way, of different things, some few examples of what has been happening in our communities in Wales when we gave the creative sector the challenge of placing language at the centre of their creativity within communities. When we said we're not looking for huge numbers, that's not the focus here. We're looking at how you're going to develop the place of language, the use of language in a community setting with people. How you're going to turn the policy of increasing the use of Welsh language into reality for people. Because it's people who speak a language, it's people who create art, it's people who live in a culture. So how do we connect with the people in these communities in order to ensure that this minority language thrives? And not only thrives, but is relevant and is part of people's everyday lives. And we realized before you reach usage, you need to have a feeling of ownership. We say at policy level that the Welsh language belongs to everybody in Wales, and that is true. But what does that mean? Do people feel that ownership in real terms if they don't have the series of words, the skill that is to speak this particular language? Do they feel an ownership of it, for it, even if they can't speak it? What does that mean in a community setting for people? So we gave that challenge to individual artists and individual communities. Work together for a year to try and find these solutions, these answers. And what we found was that by doing so, creativity opened the door for expression and discussion regarding language, but the language also opened the door to creativity and to that cultural, linguistic, creative connection. We found it extremely powerful. And my challenge here, or my question to the rest of Europe, but indeed any country in the world, is to place, how can you place your small, indigenous, native, minority, whatever the language may be, or indeed majority language, how can you place that at the center of your creative thinking, your creative working? And I believe you can do that, and I believe that Creative Europe, as well as other bodies internationally, can give that challenge to the creative community, to creative people, to ask them to work with their relevant communities to really build on this connection so that we can enable people to speak their languages, not lose them, so that we can encourage people to be creative again, to rekindle that connection with their language and their culture. So that is my challenge here today, is for the communities and the individuals in the creative sector here to grab that challenge, to take it and to really give time and thought into the power of bringing language, creativity and culture together. Thank you.
Hello. There we go. Hi, my name is Ben Evans. I'm a very tall white man in my mid to late 40s, short brown hair and a ginger beard, and today I'm wearing a bright blue jacket. I'm a disabled arts manager, and I'm going to use a phrase we haven't heard for a while. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. I'm the project director of Europe Beyond Access, which is a large-scale cooperation project supported by Creative Europe, now with 10 large mainstream organizations as partners. IETM is an affiliate partner, and we're very grateful. Operating in contemporary dance, theatre and performing arts, we focus on the support of and advocacy for deaf and disabled artists across Europe. I'm also the chair of the European Arts and Disability Cluster, which is a membership network across 25 countries, including the UK. A network committed to advancing professional opportunities for deaf, disabled, chronically ill and neurodivergent artists. And I'm a freelance cultural policy consultant, and there is a reason for mentioning this. I worked a little bit to support the discussions around Perform Europe. And last year I was a consultant on Culture Moves Europe that Judith mentioned, supporting individual mobility between member states. And I focused on an access audit and to increase numbers of deaf and disabled artists and cultural workers participating. So we know, I know Creative Europe well. I'm an evangelist for the program, but also know Judith and her team well and are really grateful for their engagement on the questions that I will address now. Slide, please. Deaf, disabled, neurodivergent and chronically ill artists, people still lack fundamental rights to participate in the arts as audiences, as artists and as cultural workers. And this is despite public subsidy in the arts, so public money, despite all member states being signatories of the UN Convention of Human Rights of People with Disabilities, and despite a European Union with the rights of people with disabilities enshrined in the core constitution of the Union. So there feels like there's this amazing opportunity right now for Creative Europe and the Cultural Compass, this document that will be delivered by the Commissioner, and also a responsibility, really to consider what we mean by whose when we say who's Creative Europe. Slide, please. In March this year, our cluster published a position paper entitled How the European Union Can and Must Act to Reduce Discrimination Against Artists, Cultural Workers and Audiences with Disabilities. And in September, we responded to this new proposed program that will come in from 2028, which will replace Creative Europe. Slide, please. Regarding this cultural compass, this statement of what values the European Commission places on culture, for us, it's vital that the cultural rights of disabled people are at the heart of that document and of the new Creative Europe programme. And that Europe's sign languages must be recognised precisely as you were talking about, Einir, as unique European languages and cultures supporting linguistic diversity. And that structured dialogue needs to take place with us as disabled artists and cultural workers because we still are so absent from the mainstream cultural networks on which the European Commission relies for discussion and developing these policies. Slide, please. With regard to Creative Europe, we've said it before and we'll say it again, there are some things that deeply and urgently need to change. And we know that the team are looking at this, but we know that political influence needs to be brought to bear. Accessibility costs need to be separate, explicit, and in addition to program costs. Not having a budget line planned can no longer be an excuse for European Creative Europe supported projects. We need dedicated actions to support knowledge development and exchange, because knowledge is hugely lacking in the European sector. We need to support the participation. We need to measure the support. We need to measure the participation and lack of participation of disabled artists, workers, and audiences, and to develop very specifically disabled audiences through the program. And we need dedicated actions to support sign language cultures, precisely as we've just been hearing about. And finally, a demand that funding and support must be linked to accessibility action plans. Public money can no longer be spent on inaccessible cultural products or on EU programs such as European Capitals of Culture if they're not accessible. And so we also, next slide, we've also reviewed this proposed new program and looking closely at the legislation that's going through the EU Parliament right now. Of course, like many of us in the room, we are hugely excited by this additional budget. It's an amazing opportunity. And it's an opportunity to increase budget allocation towards greater accessibility and diversity without cutting other parts of the program. And I'm really reminded here of the situation in Canada in 2016, where Canada Council for the Arts was doubling the budget for culture. But it made a conscious decision that the majority of this additional funding would go to new and non-funded sectors in the arts, including those from marginalized sectors. So again, a huge opportunity right now. And we have this union values strand, this new element that's going to be part of the program that Judith mentioned called Serve Plus. I'm not sure it's the best name. Serve Plus. We note, as a cluster, that alongside the culture and media programs, this is an exciting third part of that. And of course, we're excited to see that within that, diversity, accessibility, and the rights of people with disabilities are core parts of that strand. But accessibility and diversity cannot be made part of a separate and discrete program if this allows the mainstream Creative Europe projects and networks in both culture and media to avoid their responsibilities. Accessible culture is not a marginal activity. It must be at the heart of all the programs. So in culture, we want to see a reinstatement of a cross-cutting priority on gender, accessibility, inclusion, and greening. As the beneficiaries of culture and media sub-program are in receipt of public funds, it's not unreasonable to demand that their activities and cultural products be accessible to the 18 to 20% of the European population with a disability. So it's shocking that there is an absence at the moment in the legislation of an explicit priority around accessible culture. So next slide. This is the call to the European Commission and to the European Parliament, who will be considering it. Please use this opportunity to be a global leader in accessible cultural policy and funding structures. So that's what I wanted to say to the European Commission. Thank you. But now I'd like to address the UK Department for Culture, Media and Sport. Next slide. The UK must become a participating country in this new Creative Europe programme. Yes, let's say that, yeah. As the UK has done for Horizon Europe programme to support the university and research sector, it is vital to the culture and media sectors that we rejoin Creative Europe. We risk isolation from a key market and key areas of knowledge and innovation. Let's slide, please. In 2021, the then Creative Europe Desk UK commissioned research into the impact of Creative Europe across 5 years, from 2014 to 2019, and there's a code there if you want to read it in detail. Next slide. In financial terms, across those 5 years, £100 million worth of funding was given to UK organisations, direct support to creative, cultural and audiovisual sectors in the UK. And that included £72 million for the media sub-programme and £27 million through culture sub-programme. What that was 1,470 direct partnerships with partner organisations across Europe. The culture programme supported 146 UK partners to be in partnership through 175 cooperation projects. And in the media sub-programme, the UK was the lead beneficiary and included a distribution of 196 UK films. The revenue generated by those films, separate from that funding, was £575 million. Next slide, please. This is Europe Beyond Access. So this is the project that I work on and have worked on since 2018. It's a project co-financed through Creative Europe. And as I say, we're the world's largest transnational arts and disability programme. We're very proud to be supported by Creative Europe. We are led by 10 mainstream institutions, not from the UK. The irony is that Europe Beyond Access was founded by a British organisation, the British Council, in 2018, and the British Council led that first generation of the project from 2018 to 2023, until the deal that we all know and hate made the UK's participation no longer possible. During those 5 years of the project where the UK was a participating member, we supported 103 UK artists. That's 103 UK artists given paid working contracts, 103 UK artists introduced to a large market in which the UK is seen as a global leader, supporting sustainable careers independent of UK public subsidy. And it's a hell of a lot of soft power across Europe, where the UK is seen as a thought leader in cultural diversity and accessibility. And today, in the generation of the project we have now, it's only thanks to the generous support of the British Council as a funding partner, as a grant giver, that UK artists are eligible for a small number of our opportunities. Final slide, please. But having said all that about the finance, Creative Europe is much more than about funding and access to market. It is about knowledge development, innovation, and learning through exchange, and building lifelong relationships and networks. If you are a learning disabled choreographer in Bradford, it is more likely that your peers are going to be Alice Devizoglu in Brittany, or Natalia Vladisevic in Novi Sad in Serbia, than maybe in the city or perhaps even the whole country. So this is about contributing to the development ideas, challenging our thinking on culture and the arts. And I should just say as a final note, what I see now is that the conversation around the relationship between aesthetics and accessibility are rapidly advancing in countries like Germany, in Portugal, in Italy, where once the UK was a thought leader, we risk being left behind. So maybe a final message to us, also to the UK sector. I think we need to be better at advocating to the UK Department of Culture, Media and Sport that we must re-enter the Creative Europe programme. Thank you.
You need me to introduce Tanya? Yes, I will do that. Tanya Gavrovlich. Sorry, I don't have your name in front of me, Tanya. Please forgive me. You hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Very nice to see you. Speaking from, where are you speaking from?
Serbia.
Yes, from Serbia. The stage is yours, Tanya. Thank you for being with us, although remotely. We are very happy to have you.
Thank you, Elsa. So, hello everyone. My name is Tanya. I'm a woman in the early 40s and I don't have slides. I have pale skin and short dark hair that I like to cut myself. I have brown eyes and I wear a t-shirt with white and blue stripes that people tend to associate with seaside and for some reason with France. However, I speak from Novi Sad, Serbia, where I've been living and working for the last 13 years. Like many people in this field, I juggle several hats. A large part of my work has been in cultural diplomacy and international cooperation, but I'm also a writer, a translator of comic books, and lately, a tapestry weaver. One of the reasons I'm joining you online today is precisely where I'm based. Unlike citizens of Schengen states, Serbian citizens still need a visa to enter the UK. And visa procedures tend to be humiliating, time-consuming, and costly. So I'm genuinely grateful to IETM for allowing this Orwellian scene, my talking head speaking to you from large screen in Bradford. It's funny, or maybe inevitable, that all of us were speaking or mentioning languages and jargons. EU jargon, Khamraic, sign languages. Europe is, after all, a continent that has produced a great many languages, and for many tragic historical reasons, some of them still dominate international cooperation. Of these, I speak two fluently, English and French. The EU jargon is more of a passive knowledge for me. I can survive in it, but I can't make it into poetry. But one thing I like about IETM is that its website still allows me to select Serbo-Croatian as my mother tongue. I was the last generation of Yugoslav kids to learn it under that name. I still call it that, and I still speak a mixture of its dialects as my mother tongue. But in the states that emerged after the breakup, it has been renamed Serbian, Croatian, Montenegrin, according to national lines. And yet, as the Romanian philosopher Emil Cioran, who wrote in French, said, "It's not a country we inhabit, but a language. That is our only real fatherland." It sounds better in French. Well, what I inhabit is a part of Europe that tried to build a supranational peace project too. It lasted about 45 years. It had a strong army, a strong welfare system, a thriving culture, and was prepared to defend against any foreign enemy. The one thing it wasn't designed to defend from was disintegration from within. And you can't say Yugoslavia failed for lack of identity building. On the contrary, it invested heavily in it, especially through cinema. If you haven't seen Cinema Komunisto by Mila Turajlic, please do. It shows, among other things, how film was used to imagine a country into being. Supported by shared language and curriculum, this collective identity worked. People really did feel Yugoslav. And yet, even with that shared identity, the country fell apart. Now, you might wonder, why am I telling this? Aren't we supposed to be talking about creative Europe? Don't worry, it's not nostalgia. And it's not performing the Balkans for Western audience either. If anything, it's looking at the current moment through a lens of lived experience. It's a reminder that supranational peace projects, as magnificent as they can also fail. Spoiler alert, cultural cooperation survives. And these projects fail not because their artists weren't creative enough or didn't perform enough identity building, or because their log frame wasn't solid enough or the dissemination plan was underdeveloped. They fail because of a myriad of bugs in the system, none of which cultural field can compensate for. So perhaps we should chill a bit with asking creatives to do that kind of identity building at a European scale. That doesn't mean not to invest in creatives. On the contrary, invest heavily. Not because it will save us from any possible disaster, but because that shared cultural field will remain even in an aftermath of a possible disaster. And it will be the ground to rebuild and perhaps fail again, perhaps fail better. And on a side note, as progressive as a European identity might sound compared to a national one, it can still reproduce colonial logic and monopolize universal human values. It still too often defines itself through difference, even through exclusion. It's a kind of identity that requires an other to exist, to feel superior to, or to be defended against, or to build elaborate borders against. Now, I come from a so-called third country, as EU jargon puts it, since Serbia is not a member state. And that difference matters. Unlike UK, Serbia is in the creative Europe, which is fortunately bigger than the European Union itself. However, the reality of an independent organization based in a country with no structural funding for the independent scene is miles apart from that of a well-staffed cultural institution. To be fair, a well-staffed cultural institution is increasingly becoming a mythical creature, even in member states. And Serbia is not the only country in Europe lacking the structural funding. Project funding on any level, local, national, or international, with its short cycle timeframes, was never meant to be a lifeline. It was meant to be an opportunity to do more, to go beyond what structural funding already provides. In a world where structural public funding for culture is the default, that might work. But it's not the world we live in, is it? In an equally developed field, it might make more sense. But the Europe creative field is anything but equal. A wide variety of languages, sectors, national funding systems, historical, structural, and infrastructural gaps all intersect and shape a widely diverse and disproportionately precarious field. So we come to a paradox. EU project funding becomes a duct tape solution for the diminishing structural funds on national level, thus creating a vicious circle of dependency, a whole new caste of project writers, and a never-increasing number of grant requests. Again, this is not to say that Creative Europe should be doing less. It's simply to remind us that we should advocate for more funding and different types of funding on all levels. This is why Creative Europe is at its best when it acknowledges the inequalities and when it actively works to reshape the existing, entrenched cultural flows shaped by these inequalities, like it did with Perform Europe, which was designed specifically for one sector, or with Culture Moves Europe, designed to adapt to individual needs of artists and cultural professionals. Furthermore, both programs also strove to simplify grant request procedures and reporting. Well, at least from the perspective of cultural professionals. But let's not forget that we are already fluent in the language of project administration. And it is a language in itself, with its budgets, audits, and deliverables. These words are hardly our mother tongue. It's a dialect of power, and not everyone speaks it fluently. And just like any language we inhabit, it shapes our imagination before we even start creating. Before we've gone into what we're excited to do, we already think about how to anchor it in research, how to prove the need, how to distribute it across work packages, how to fit it into 2 to 4 years. Is that what we would like to think of when we say European cooperation? Is it something we would be proud to see reproduced on a global scale? I hope not. On the other hand, the Europe of creatives, with its multiple, messy, multilingual realities, doesn't even need to be reproduced. It is already our shared global human reality. And if I'm to imagine the future of this continent and its creatives, let me borrow that line from the flight attendants. In the unlikely case of an emergency landing, leave all the log frames behind and follow your curiosity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya, and thank you all of you for your thoughts and provocations and diverse hot potatoes that you mentioned. All equally important and all going to be the topic of our conversation in the next 2 days. We are now going to ask the three of you to step onto the stage again, and Tanya to be with us, hopefully hearing us on the screen. And this is your chance to put your words in, your thoughts in, or your questions to these wonderful people that are with me here on the stage, or to Tanya that is with us from Serbia. And I am sure there is already a burning thought or a burning question in the audience bursting. Anybody? Yay! There's a roving mic coming your way. Bear with us.
Hello, Liz Pugh from Walk the Plank. Thank you very much to all the speakers. To Judith. Thinking tactically, sitting as someone based in the UK and going through the categories of possibility, could we, and how could we, declare ourselves a candidate country? Is that a possibility? Because I noticed that candidate countries, if there was enough of us wanting, and there clearly may not be, but who knows, could we be a candidate country? Is that a way in?
I suppose that the question should be asked to your government and not to me. I think that the easiest way to come back to Creative Europe, and it's not so difficult, is just to write a letter of expression of interest. And then, following this, we just start the negotiation to be able to sign what we call an accession agreement. So how does it work? Also with the countries that we call in our jargon the third countries, is that since you're not anymore a member state, you will have to pay an entry ticket to be able to participate in the program. So the only thing which is missing is just, it is a political wish, and I think this is why it is important that Ben mentioned the benefits of participating to this program for the UK, and also the fact that this is very true. I have a lot of feedback about this, that we really miss your expertise, your creativity, and we know that a lot of our organization continue working with you, but there is an issue because we cannot fund organization from your countries. So it will help a lot that you come back in our program.
Hey. There's another question right beside Liz.
Hello, I'm Amelia from Quiplash, and this is a question for anybody on the panel who wants to take it. So Quiplash, we're here because we have started to work internationally in these really like bits and pieces. Somebody will bring us over, we'll spend 2 days in Germany because that's all they can afford, and then we come back, and then 2 months later we go back for another 2 days, that sort of thing. So we're here because we're trying to figure out how to build this dream of a sustainable international career. And I was just wondering, you know, and this can be in light of all of the political stuff that is surrounding the UK and Europe. Do you have any tactics for companies like us that are small but have a lot to offer in terms of the art we make and also the ways that we can support artists, because we do both? And yeah, what would your I guess key, if you have any key advice other than the wonderful things you've already said, yeah, if you had anything that you would offer to anybody who's in a similar position, which I assume is quite a lot of people in this room. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. Who would like to go? Ben? Is this up your alley?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Ben here. I can try and give it a bit of an answer. Firstly, I think you're in the right place. IETM is a fantastic resource. And also I think it's important, following on from the conversation before, to say that the majority of European networks and platforms, UK can still be members in the same way as they can for IETM. So those platforms and networks out there are really helpful, including the European Arts and Disability Cluster, if you would like to join. Yes, okay, that's sorted. I think it's there's two things I would like to say. It's important to say that UK organisations can still be contracted by those who are running European projects, and indeed artists can be sent to the UK depending on the structure. It's just that UK organisations cannot be direct recipients of money from the Commission. So if a French festival wants to invite you and they're part of a European project, they can now invite you without any limit on the amount spent on third country contracts, which is really good news for the UK. So building strong relations, being in spaces like this is never wasted. But I also think I should say, unfortunately, international touring is can no longer be thought of as just this financial paradise. I think it would be incorrect if we went into thinking of these relationships as, oh, I can subsidize my UK difficult hand-to-mouth existence by international contracts. Firstly, the culture funding situation across Europe is equally or far more bleak, as we were hearing from in Serbia. And so let's not think that we're just going to get money in from outside. But also, I just think the nature of the relationships is such that it is about deepening relationship rather than just looking for an individual contract. So, in summary, networks and platforms like IETM can support the building of relationships, but just a note of hesitation around, oh, this is going to solve our financial difficulty. It isn't.
And if I may add to that as well.
Thank you for your honesty, Ben. There's a lot of people in IETM to have conversations with, so really please use these days, all of you, as much as you can, and you can start with Liz sitting right next to you. Any other? There's a question over there and a question over there.
Thank you. My name is Leo, I work at University College London, and I think my question is for Judith. When you talked about the second objective for Creative Europe, you talked about the intention of strengthening the competitiveness of the creative and cultural industries, and I wondered, who are we competing with? Is it the rest of the world or is it other sectors? I wondered if you could say a little bit more about that.
In terms of funding, I would say that you're competing with other sectors because since the budget is limited and, for example, for cooperation projects, we cover all sectors and there's no specific envelope for one sector or another. So it means that we will give the funds to the project that has the highest quality. With the new program, we think Thank you. We think that with a higher budget that we will be able to develop further what we call the sectoral approach. What we would really dream of is to be able to have some specific action dedicated to each of the sectors. We kind of have it a little bit now, and this was introduced in the second period of Creative Europe, because we had a little bit more budget compared to the first period, and we have developed some sector-specific actions, for example, Perform Europe for the performing arts. Also the support to the book sector with literary calls that we have. And we hope that we will be able to... So we think that we will be able to continue doing this by having a higher budget. On the competitiveness, what we would like to do is to be able to create an ecosystem at a European level. So meaning that we would like to equip the organization with the necessary skills to be able to participate in as many projects as possible. But we do not consider that they are going to compete against each other. This is not at all the objective. What is very important to mention is that what we want is really at the core of our program is to be able to encourage and support as much as possible diversity. So we will not subsidize projects that we think are able to compete economically at a European level or worldwide. We would like to be able to finance them because we think that they bring an added value in terms of diversity. At the same time, we think that it's very important that we are able to support European projects that are able to compete with projects from other areas in the world. Why? Because we think it's important that we maintain our European value and diversity, and that we are able to exchange also with other areas of the world. And for this, we need to equip our organizations with the right tools, specifically, as I said in my presentation, linking it to the challenge of AI.
Thank you for that. Emma was first, and then I have a hand over there, and then a hand over there, and I think this might need to be the concluding questions. Emma?
I'm on the floor. Thank you so much, Osa. So I feel like I'm hearing a lot about redistribution of resource and of power, and maybe this is totally tainted by my own desire, but I think there's a bit of an acknowledgement of the inflated administrative class that sucks up a lot of resource and power. So I wonder, as individuals, for all of you, what is your actual strategy for redistribution, and how are you personally thinking about dismantling the bureaucracy you're part of, and how that dismantling could move money from consultants and policymakers to actual artists and communities?
Thank you, Emma.
It's small.
That is a big question. I'm gonna ask Anir to take a go at it.
Thank you. I think it's an important part of anybody's role to look at how we engage directly with people, with organizations, and to give that funding, but also the voice and the power back to them. So, for example, in the programs that we're running that I touched upon in my presentation, we work with people and bring them together so that they're working across and with each other, not just from a top-down perspective. So that, okay, we can give the funds, we do that is a powerful action, but the workings of the program are equal, so that we encourage that equality and we encourage the connection, not just encourage, we ask for it, so that then that voice is there and part of the future developments of that program.
Just as a follow-up, how can that be equal when the funder and the policymaker is salaried, usually at much higher than average living wage, yeah, and the artist in the community is either a volunteer or extremely low and underwaged?
Well, we need to accept that, as I said, the power of the funding goes down from that sector that is not equal to the others. But the equality of voice and the equality of the actions that come from those voices are what is important. So that if we listen to them, really listen to them, and if you really work with them, then that can then filter back through to the funding circles, and that is the way that we are trying to work within our programs. I hope that helps and answers a little bit, but it's an important question. It is.
It is a big question. It addresses fairness, working conditions, and the whole lot. And Tanya, you wanted to speak?
Yes, it's a crucial question that Emma is asking, and also one of the previous questions also about how to build an international career in a sustainable fashion, which is not an easy task. Both of these questions are really in the heart of everything that is also being very toxic in international cooperation, and not only in international cooperation, but in the cultural field itself. We can obviously do eulogies, and we should defend this sector. But everybody wants to be the change we want to see in the world. But we really need to take a look at how we are the part of the problem that we are supposedly changing and trying to change. And it is a real question, and as long as we have very difficult, time-consuming administrative procedures that are linked to any kind of grant procedures, we will constantly have people and professionals that need to be there to evaluate, to write projects, to assess, to audit them. We basically are hiring a whole new caste of people that are there to take care of the artists and creatives. So we really need to rethink and simplify as much as possible procedures. We see it already happening in some of the programs of Creative Europe, and that is absolutely a way to go. Now we are talking about European level, union level, but it's also the same. This is true at the national levels and at the local level.
Thank you, Tanya. Very important points to bring into the rest of the conversation of the next 2 days. I invite you to take it to Ben's workshop later on and all the other workshops that are coming up. I have one question over there and then another one there, and then we'll have to close.
Hi, I'm Julie Ward. I'm a former member of the European Parliament from the cultural sector. I was Vice Chair of the Culture and Education Committee 2014 to 2020. I just want to make a comment about the last point. Join a trade union, everybody. Join a trade union. Come on, let's fight this, right? Advocate for universal basic income. Okay, Ireland's already doing it. We need to do it. I had some questions. So... But I'll never stop fighting for the sector, right? And none of us should. So I was partly responsible for STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths in the new European Agenda for Culture 2018, because I never shut up about it in all the committees in the European Parliament. Has it gone out the window? I don't hear it being mentioned anymore. And it was incredibly useful to get arts onto the same level and taken seriously along with STEM. Also, I'm not hearing about Bauhaus, about the green agenda very much. What's happened to that? I think there's some really important things that we're not talking about. We need to have those things back in the conversation again.
Thank you. Julie, I think this question is for you, Judith.
Okay. So maybe also to mention a few things about what has been said. The complexity of our procedures, we know it's our weak point. We need to strike a balance between accountability, because we are using public money, and also accessibility. We are working on this. If you have suggestions, I would be very happy to hear them. We are also organizing now, and this is new, what we call implementation dialogues. So the commissioner is supposed to have several times per year dialogue with beneficiaries on the strengths and weaknesses of the implementation of our program. And we had one with the grant holders for cooperation project very recently, and it was extremely useful for me, and for us. And we will take this into account in the setup of our next program. On your question about STEM, I think this relates more to another program, which is Erasmus+. This is, to my knowledge, still integrated in the program. About the Green Deal and new European Bauhaus, there is now, for the new European Bauhaus, a facility of, I think this is an envelope of 100 million, which is used from the Horizon Europe program, specifically for NEB, New European Bauhaus. In Creative Europe program, we still have a lot of actions that, in which the principles of the New European Bauhaus are embedded. But we do not have specific actions on the New European Bauhaus. Why? Because we do not want to use our rather limited budget for these actions, and we prefer integrating them in the actions that we already have. On the Green Deal, this is for our program still a priority. One of our overarching priorities is greening, and we continue our approach of mainstreaming sustainable practices in all our actions. We are asking the project holders to have a greening strategy. Our strategy is no one should be left behind. We know it is extremely difficult for small organizations. We would like to encourage them, but we would not want to punish them for not taking up these into account, because we know it has a cost. So this is something that we will also consider when we work on the new program. If we have more budget, then we will be able to give additional funds to encourage greening practices, and also, as suggested by Ben, accessibility costs. This is something that we are currently working on.
Thank you. Did you want to say something, Ben? Are you okay? Then we'll have the final question over there, and then we take the rest of the dialogue into the 2 days. Over there.
Hi there, I'm Callum Perrin. I'm just an artist. And I just wanted to return a sort of follow-up to the excellent question before about objective number 2 of Creative Europe. So this is for Judith, about competitiveness. Sorry to return to this again, but it is one of only 2 objectives that Creative Europe has. So it's obviously very, very similar to what you do. And you did mention that that competitiveness with other parts of the world is part of spreading European values. And this is very interesting, and something that I've also heard when I've attended conferences in Germany. Now, the term European values is something that I've never heard anyone in the cultural sector use in the UK, and is heavily associated with the right, and often the far right, and associated with whiteness and historical colonialism. And, Tanya already warned us of a kind of EU colonialism, a sort of expanded nationalism, and to sort of be careful of that within the sort of EU cultural ambitions. So I'm interested in knowing how this idea of European values in competition with other parts of the world differs from that.
Yeah. So these values, and this is something that has been specifically worked on for the new program, that the proposal of Agora EU, because we have now integrated the civic equality right and values aspect of our program in a wider program. So these values, I encourage you to have a look at the proposals. I mean, this is nothing new. These are values that are enshrined in our treaties. We talk about equality, we talk about inclusion, we talk about diversity. And I can understand that this can be perceived as a new colonialist approach. This is not at all what is defined with what we have included in our program. The approach is really to be able to also use culture as a diplomatic tool. So not imposing our values, but defending them and being proud of them. And specifically diversity. I think it's extremely important. This is really the uniqueness of Europe. We spoke about the languages, the diversity of culture, and I think it's extremely important that we stand up for this.
Thank you so much, Judith. This concludes this opening session. Thank you all for your contributions. Thank you for your questions. But we are nowhere near finished. We are just beginning. And before I give the word to Sophie, that is going to lead us into this next session, I just wanted to tell you, because the Culture Campus has been mentioned a few times, this is like a new agenda for culture for European Union. And the 30 networks that are members of Culture Action Europe actually took part of their summer holiday this summer to do our very own shadow culture campus. You can find it on the IETM website, you can find it on the Culture Action Europe website. I encourage you to read it because it has a lot of contributions which are very much touching up on the points that have been made here today. So without further ado, thank you, the three of you, and Tanya. And Pete and Jeunesse. And I give the word to Sofia Victoria, international project producer of Farnham Malting, who will lead the famous IETM network session, Who's There?, inspired by new ideas from Caravan Farnham Malting. Enjoy, contribute, listen, and take care of one another. See you in the next session.